Hunting in the prehistoric world was not a casual activity. It required time, energy, tools, and cooperation, all of which were genuinely scarce resources in a world where every calorie counted, and many of the largest, most calorie-dense animals were also the most dangerous to approach. An adult mammoth, a cave bear, a wild aurochs, the ancestor of the modern domestic cow, were animals capable of seriously injuring or killing an experienced hunter with a single action. Ancient hunters therefore developed a practical cost-benefit analysis that was entirely intuitive but deeply rational. A small animal that could be caught quickly and safely provided reliable, low-risk calories. A large, dangerous animal provided enormous calories but required significant risk and group coordination. The decision about which to pursue at any given moment depended on the group's current food situation, the available weapons and numbers of hunters, and the accumulated knowledge within the group about that specific animal's behavior, danger level, and the best strategies for approaching it safely. Archaeological evidence of hunting patterns at prehistoric sites consistently shows that early humans were not indiscriminate in what they hunted. They targeted specific species at specific times of year, using specific approaches. Evidence of careful, accumulated strategic thinking about food-animal selection, not random opportunism. Beyond the immediate risk calculation, ancient humans also developed detailed knowledge about which parts of which animals were safe and nutritious to consume, knowledge that was far from obvious and required generations of careful observation to build. Not all parts of all animals are safe to eat. Certain organs accumulate toxins. The liver of a polar bear, for example, contains such extraordinarily high concentrations of vitamin A that consuming it causes acute and potentially life-threatening toxicity, a fact that indigenous Arctic peoples have known for thousands of years and that Western explorers have famously and sometimes fatally ignored. The bile of certain fish species is toxic. The skin of certain amphibians contains powerful chemical defenses. Ancient humans learned all of this the hard way, through direct experience, through observation of which foods made people sick and which did not, and through the transmission of that knowledge across generations. The sophistication of ancient food knowledge is visible in the archaeological record through butchery patterns. Analysis of cut marks on prehistoric animal bones shows that ancient hunters had precise, consistent knowledge of the most efficient ways to process each specific type of animal, which cuts to make, in what sequence to extract the maximum nutrition with the minimum waste. This consistency across sites and across time periods indicates standardized knowledge being transmitted and maintained within communities, not improvised fresh by each individual hunter. The transition from hunting to domestication, the shift from simply choosing which wild animals to pursue to actively choosing which animals to bring into permanent relationship with human communities, represents perhaps the most consequential food-animal selection decision in all of human history, and the process by which it happened was gradual, experimental, and driven by the same practical logic that governed prehistoric hunting. Domestication did not happen overnight, and it did not happen by design in the way we might imagine. Archaeological evidence suggests that the domestication of most food animals began with a period of what researchers call managed hunting, where human communities did not simply hunt animals opportunistically, but began to selectively influence wild herds, protecting certain individuals, removing others, and gradually shifting the relationship from pure predation towards something closer to management. Animals that tolerated this managed relationship, that did not flee from human proximity, that could be guided and controlled, that reproduced readily near human settlements, gradually became domestic animals over many generations of this selective interaction. Animals that consistently fled, that were too aggressive to manage safely, or that refused to reproduce in proximity to humans, remained wild game rather than becoming livestock. The ancient humans who made these gradual selections were not thinking in terms of domestication as a concept. They were making immediate, practical decisions about which animals were manageable and which were not. Decisions that accumulated across hundreds of generations into the transformation of wild species into domestic ones. Goats and sheep were among the earliest animals domesticated for food. appearing in the archaeological record of the Near East approximately 10,000 to 11,000 years ago. Both species share behavioral characteristics that made them early candidates. They are herd animals that accept a dominant leader. They are small enough to manage safely, and they are highly adaptable to a wide range of environments and diets. Pigs followed shortly after, domesticated in multiple regions independently, selected for their extraordinary efficiency at converting food scraps into meat. Cattle came slightly later. The wild aurochs from which domestic cattle descended was a genuinely dangerous animal, and the process of domesticating it required both selective breeding over many generations and the development of handling techniques capable of managing a very large and powerful animal safely. Here is the underlying principle that connects every stage of this process. Ancient humans chose their food animals through the same mechanism that has driven human progress in almost every domain. Careful observation of what worked, transmission of that knowledge within and between communities, and gradual refinement over time as more experience accumulated. They did not have biology textbooks or nutritional science. What they had was something equally powerful in its own way: thousands of years of accumulated collective intelligence about which animals were worth pursuing, which were safe to consume, which could be managed rather than simply hunted, and which rewarded the investment of bringing them into permanent relationship with human communities. Every animal in your kitchen right now, every piece of chicken, every cut of beef, every egg, is the end result of that 10,000-year selection process, a chain of ancient human decisions, each one practical and immediate, that together added up to the entire foundation of how we feed ourselves today. If this made you think differently about the food on your plate, subscribe and leave a comment below.